Good afternoon and welcome back to the PCL. I'm Tom Battinger, and we are one match, As we move on, Cyclone is going to be looking at Radiant across the way, and of course, across the way from me, joined by Pretty Hair.
What's up, everybody? I'm had a good time casting that first one. Obviously, Flashpoint looking very, very strong. I am looking for this set to be a little bit less one-sided, though, for sure.
Yeah, it should be interesting because Radiant actually coming off of a loss last week. Cyclone, one of the stronger teams on paper. So it's interesting for you to hear that because on my side, I'm looking at Radiant. They might just be in too deep.
They might be. But to sum it up here, I think there's roughly 41 reasons why I would lean the way of Cyclone as well. Neither of these teams have ever been overly successful.
Sure.
Don't have any hardware. Don't have any big trophies to talk about. But the thing of Cyclone is there are a couple of guys that have come together, and the teams that they do come from were a little bit more successful, closer to that hardware, so to speak, than the Radiant guys have ever been.
Exactly. I mean, they are definitely finding themselves. I think I look at Slopodopoulos directly as being one of the leaders on this squad, but this is absolutely, make no bones about it, this is absolutely an attempt at a super team.
Yeah.
Like you said, all these individuals have kind of come together here, and it should be interesting watching them try to coalesce and create something.
Definitely, especially when you're looking at these guys that come from Vex, from Slopodopoulos, Welshmania. Those are the guys that have always represented the EU Xbox scene at every single one of these lands. Like I said, never able to get their hands on any hardware, but definitely looking extremely strong. And they have that experience, right? That's such a big thing, right? To kind of know what to do in those shoes. And like I said, every single time they have represented this region console combination. So they are going to be some very experienced players as far as that goes.
We're across the way. I mean, Radiant, these guys are relatively newer. They made a change from week 1 to week 2. So, I mean, they're trying to really lift up, and I said the first team was trying to find themselves. Well, at least they have the map. I think for Radiant,
I think that's a good way to put it.
They're kind of looking for step 1.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it for sure. Another smorgasbord team, like we're saying, they got one guy coming from Viral, one guy coming from Old Team Radiant, a dude from OTP, if you remember that name, and then they have Luke is Too Good, who is just a flat-out rookie this year. So they are going to have to kind of find the map before they kind of set face, looking for some of those hardware, looking for the trophy, looking to even represent this region, because Xbox EU has, like I said, always been locked down by Vex. So it's kind of up in the air right now. It's a little bit up for grabs in terms of a region.
Everybody just kind of looking around like, all right, well, where do we lie? And I'm looking at Cyclone to kind of be towards the top here. Where do you see Radiant? All the pieces have settled. We're 4 weeks, 5 weeks in. Where do you see Radiant eventually settling to?
Hopefully somewhere at least in third, second place, right? I don't think they're ready to be a top squad in this region, but I do think they can hopefully settle somewhere in the middle of the pack, and that's probably, you'd be happy with that.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, that's not the way that's going to get you to land with the console, right? We only really take the top team from each region console combination, so they will not be coming to land unless they can qualify out in that top spot, and never say never, I guess.
9 times out of 10, you got to crawl before you can run.
Sure.
Every once in a while, there's that launch team that we see, but most of the time you want to make your way up. So this is a squad, as we said, multiple rookies,
right,
multiple people kind of doing crazy things. So hopefully they'll be able to turn things up. Map 1 on the way here as we take a look at Radiant versus Cyclone. And the first map is going to be Jaguar Falls.
What? Do you agree? I mean, it's such a weird word. Like,
Jaguar.
I guess every word is a little bit weird.
Jaguar. So sometimes if you say fence too many times, it turns into like F-E-N-T-S. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Jaguar, I'm looking at like J-A-G-W.
Do you get that? Like, if
Yes.
you say a word too much, it starts to look weird. It starts to not look like a word anymore in your own head.
How many times have you said Jaguar today, Nick?
Too many. And that's why it's messing me up. My brain is kind of toasted on this word at the moment.
Well,
so I just want to get into P's and B's.
We'll see if it messes up Cyclone or Radiant as we jump into picks and bans. As far as match number 1, we saw a lot of focus on the tankier characters being banned out. Game 1, I don't think anybody really knew what to expect, and so they banned out some weird stuff. Vivian, I called Vivian a hangover ban. I think that's just your catch-up guys. But here as we see it, it's going to be a Talus ban, first of all. The Torvald ban, I think, makes a little bit more sense. Khan, again, again, these tankier frontline characters, frontline-S characters are what we're seeing taken away.
Right now, obviously, it's a pretty fresh season with some pretty big sweeping changes. So that would shake up the meta, or so you would think. Frontlines, at least on PC, have stayed very, very ban heavy. A couple of DPSs sneaking through every now and then. Grover is a fairly popular. He's the most popular support ban there has ever been in the history of Paladins. So that's not weird to see. But console definitely leans a little bit more towards there's like a couple of DPS picks that we don't want to worry about. It's things like Koga. If Torvald is available, Koga becomes a big, big problem. That's the same on PC as well. Talus is not uncommon to see as like a very thorn in the side. Like these guys definitely have their champs they're known for, right? We saw that Victor come out for Prosper Logic every single game last game. So you will see certain DPSs focused out based on the players playing in the set.
One thing I love about this draft from both sides is that they've prioritized their pick with respects to capping the point. Makoa and Nara, Nara being the best character, just sitting on that point. Makoa is going to do a great job as well. Game one, or match number one, we saw some struggles there with kind of point taking, points being taken over. Not going to be an issue here. We know who's standing where.
And this is shaping up to be kind of Death Bally, almost similar to that composition that Flashpoint just beat in our last set. And that's what worries me a little bit, because when you do these like sort of death, it is a more passive approach to the game. And to do that and to execute that, you need to be in total control of the set and completely aware of the way this fight's going to play out before it actually does.
You got to be hot.
And
game number one is kind of tough to be kind of jumping in there. So Makoa, Vivian, Bomb King, Maldama, Barak, this is a team, this is a composition that needs to win, and they need to win quickly. They need to get in there and get underneath the opposition. Radiant across the way, and Nora, Grok, Saris, Ashe, Victor, a little bit more staying power.
Yeah, I mean, they do draft Victor last. He does a ton of damage, but I'm concerned that it's not going to be enough, especially when you're stacking it up against Bomb King Vivian. And I actually think Makoa actually has a very good weapon as far as front lines go, so he is going to be a big, big part of this team fight as well.
It's going to be nuts watching this one come out. As I said, Cyclone need to get things off early and often. We're at Jaguar Falls. Casters, take it away.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Nick. And alongside me in the booth for set number 2, Gormizer, good to have you. And I think it's a little bit of poetic justice that Nick has to say Jaguar Falls a few more times on the desk after we touched on it in break. I know that he's overcoming having to say Jaguar so many. Now, I'm saying it on accident. I didn't even mean to say it that way. This is horrible.
Well, it's one of those things. We were actually talking about it because I mentioned the fact that people pronounce it Jaguar, and you had said that it's like when you can afford the car of the same name that eventually you just start saying it that way. I also think I realized this like as I heard them say it 6 or more times. I also grew up in the South, and people don't like to pronounce things that correctly
That's true.
here.
No, there's a lot of curtailing.
You getting attacked by one of them Jaguars?
That's right. There's a lot of curtailing of proper pronunciation that just kind of goes out of the window. But CycloneGG off to a hot start here. Radiant Esports was able to grab a 45% lead there on that point, but Cyclone answering back with a couple kills and now getting that point lead for themselves, 39% and climbing. And doing a good job of zoning back Radiant a little bit here.
And this is kind of the way of these drafts, right? Inara can go in there, get an initial point fight, be able to stand on the point for just a little bit longer than anybody else, but it's the way Bomb King Vivian works, especially with a Makoa behind them. Like, it's just all aggression. If you give them a little bit of space, the Cyclone is going to get in your face and they're going to cause a lot of trouble. Yeah, you lose Slappadopoulos, you lose money. You already grabbed the point.
Yeah, you got a 1-0 lead. You'll take a couple deaths for it. You imagine you would have had to anyway if they went any earlier, but almost a bit of a slow response there from Radiant, or a bit of a slow push to try to get in there. I mean, they maybe mistimed that a little bit, but the Inara was going for a touch, but just unable to get it. Kings being very aggressive here, getting in behind the Inara. Slappadopoulos respawns, finds himself a kill onto the Grok, so that's a good start there for Cyclone on this push, just trying to clean up this Inara. Oh my, she is so tanky. The hook coming in as well. Finally going down after eating bomb after bomb in the face, and now Bomb King just going to keep rolling here, finding himself so much damage. CycloneGG finally getting out of their base, starting off this push seemingly on the right foot, and they're going to keep going here.
And you know, there's so many players on Cyclone to highlight, to be able to showcase, yes, this person's good for X reasons or Y reasons, but Kings has been probably one of the more staple Bomb Kings that console scene has had, just being able to kind of sit there and deal damage. Victor, Vivian, not too difficult in terms of their playstyle, right? You have to have good positioning, but the damage kind of comes to you. Bomb King is very positional based. How well can you use your abilities? How well can you time it? How well can you hit these bombs? Like, there's just so many intricacies that come through, and now a King Bomb, this is really just tying it all together.
He's going to find it onto the Ashe. He is going to get stunned up and stacking that onto a Fear, so running right into CycloneGG is that Ashe. Welshmania dropping Luke is too good on the backside as well, so Radiant Esports down 2 members right now, and the payload is so close to going in, and if they keep rolling, it's going to go in relatively quickly. And look how well they zoned out Radiant there, and sure enough, 2-0 lead here for Cyclone.
And you saw a combination at the very end. Scarcity here, as well as Fluxy, putting together their healing. Scarcity was not necessarily unkillable. His health bar went pretty much all the way down, then all the way back up, then all the way down, then all the way back up. Like, it was just bouncing between that. But the problem is, and this is part of the problem with Radiant Esports' draft as a whole, is once Ashe is gone, you don't really have anyone to push forward.
Right.
Victor can create a little bit of space, but he has to do it from far away. Ashe is the only one who can get in your face and make that same space. Luke is too good here on the Inara. Has the staying power, has the healing, has the tankiness. We saw it all last round. It's very difficult to kill the Inara, but she's not really doing anything in retaliation. She's just standing there and taking a ton of damage.
Which is, you know, part of why you pick an Inara, but there's definitely a lot of aggression that can be played out there. Cyclone, Radiant rather, getting the first touch here, and this side, here comes the seismic crash, does find 2 on the backside of that fight, and Luke walling himself off. That's a great wall, stopping the damage at least for a minute, and Radiant, here comes the Ashe banner. Kings dropping solo, Scarcity picking up 2 for himself, so utilizing that small room so well. Scarcity with a triple kill on the Grok. Radiant Esports answering back in a huge way, 81% and climbing on their way to their first point on this map.
Again, so many things that went right there for Radiant. A lot of it was Cyclone happened to all put themselves in this one area, and then Radiant were like, all right, ult dump, ult dump, ult dump. Anything that we can throw, we're going to throw it all into this one area, and we're going to be able to keep control because of that. They managed to maintain a convergence. They are about to recharge a Tempest, so they still have more in their toolbox to be able to go to. But Cyclone, they didn't use the Ancient Rage. They didn't use the Dome Shield. They never had a chance. And with comeback mechanic, that was the only fight Radiant needed.
And they still have some ultimates charging up from the last push that they had a minute ago. You know, the King Bomb rather, still about to come back up. The Dread Serpent about to come back up as well. So certainly up and available very shortly if they want to utilize it here on the defense. But in the meantime, Radiant Esports on the front foot, at least for the moment. But Kings continuing to just pour out damage from this Bomb King and being a thorn in the side of Radiant Esports. And this is that initial choke point. This is that first part where you're going to have a hard time kind of getting over this hill. Here comes the Dread Serpent, getting a nice few bit of CCs there. Maldamba, Vivian, Bomb King, each adding a kill of their own. Radiant Esports is on the back foot yet again after what was a good start to that push.
And this is just clean play from Cyclone, right? It's them playing together, them recognizing how much time is left on the clock. We used to talk about it a lot, and it's really relevant here. When you can use your ult, depending on which champion you are, add a defense and still recharge it to have it for the next round. For some people, it's going to come up a little bit faster. For Maldamba, like Harvey, is probably not going to have that immediately coming into the next round. But Maldamba, you don't need that one immediately, especially if you have a Dome Shield and a King Bomb. And that's where I think things are really kind of coming through. How well can Kings and the rest of the crew hold onto their ult so they aren't forced into that bad position?
Definitely, and they have... Even still, Cyclone didn't, and you said this, they didn't dump a lot of those important ultimates in the Vivian ultimate. The Sentinel's soon to be back up as well. Radiant Esports close to charging some ultimates for themselves as well. They have about 30 seconds left, about halfway there on the payload. So definitely still a big hill to climb here if you're on the side of Radiant Esports. CycloneGG wants just more of the same here. They want to keep doing what they're doing, and Slopodopolis is going to do just that, nearly knocking out the Victor. And now turns his sights on the Inara, who's going to go pretty low as well. Here come the Sentinels, so they are up and available. Going to add some damage to this Vivian, but the fight is going on right outside of this window, and she does find her target. The Victor going down first, but Grok answers back with one onto the Maldamba, and ultimate starting to get dumped out. You saw the Dome Shield. Vivian doing huge damage here with those Sentinels. Great job. Inara keeping herself alive for the time being, but Kings, Smutny finally cleaning up Radiant Esports, and CycloneGG. Whew, huge defense from them there.
You know, I've said this in the past, and I'll say it again. I am very scared when we see an Inara wall that gets picked up and then turned into a wall that dies, right?
Right.
That wall never gets shot at, never gets torn down unless the player does it or the timer goes off on it. Vivian is the only champion I have seen who will just face tank that wall and be like, you know what? Fine, you put up the wall, I'm going to go through it. And like with the Sentinels up, with the damage she does, especially with Opportunity and Chaos, like it can go through. And then imagine if you decided, for whatever reason, to get a bulldozer on top of it. Like, just if you could add more damage to it, it would be impressive. With Slopodopolis there making the big difference, having the Sentinels out and being able to recharge those already at 26%. But, I mean, as long as they're available, as long as they're up, Vivian's damage numbers are going to go through the roof.
I don't think it would be fair if you were able to increase that damage anymore. I think it's okay where it's at the moment, but the Sentinel's staying up, staying available, pouring out damage. The Inara is going to be the target of this initial aggression, but Ashe and Inara, those are going to be two huge tanks that are going to be tough to deal with. And as such, 35% and climbing for Radiant Esports, but King's going to have something to say about it. Finds himself 3 kills on the backside of that fight. King's doing huge things here for Cyclone, slowing down that Radiant Esports push, and that's exactly when they needed it to happen.
And I mean, doing it clean. Didn't even use the King Bomb. Still has his ult available. They have another Dread Servant. They have control of this point, and they have the kills to back themselves up. Kings could die right now and still be able to make it back, change another team fight, and cause a lot of ruckus. It's going to be up to this Ashe to be able to touch. That's 84% right now for Cyclone.
But the Dread Serpent turns her away, 93, 96, 99, and they're not able to get the touch. CycloneGG cleaning that up, and they started off hot, then fell back a little bit. That second point there was a little bit tougher for them to find their momentum, but coming out on top here, 4-1.
And there was a lot that I want to say pushed and pulled for them. It's the fact that you have a really good Bomb King on probably one of his best maps, if not his best map, that comes through, and it's all working well. You still are able to get a triple kill, I believe, at the back line.
Big triple kill,
and still keep your King Bomb. Like, that's without an ult being able to facilitate it, so a lot of good coming from Cyclone.
Certainly a lot of good, but to break it down a little bit further, we're going to send it back to our desk. Here's F-Dot and Pretty Hair.
Hey, it's both of us this time around. Dawson, Gore, great job of the cast, and great job of the gameplay. Cyclone, I think that's kind of what we expect. I think that's exactly what I expected. Cyclone taking the victory, but not gifted it. Radiant still able to put up a fight.
Yeah, still winning that one team fight there, and that's kind of what I was trying to frame when I'm saying this is a little bit of a death ball-y, momentum-y comp. They don't have a ton of damage, so they need to like hard commit to these fights, right? Because when you're playing these tanks, they don't really have this peek and poke gameplay. They have to sort of get in there and commit. Because if I'm Ashe, right, I'm only doing 400 a burst shot, right? So I have to stick on you, and I have to stay on you if that damage is going to turn into a kill. So popping the Grok ult, they had a lot of big control, big CC. Grok managed to pull a triple kill once there, off of the back of some Ashe CC, and that's what it takes to win the game. And unfortunately, you can't have ultimates all the time, unless you're Vivian.
Yep. You literally can.
That's what they needed to win that one for sure, was just more ultimate conversion stuff like that.
CycloneGG also, I love the way they use the Bomb King as area control. A lot of times you see toss, clap, toss, clap, toss, clap.
Yeah.
He was lining up the bombs to a certain area so that players could not come into that spot unscathed, and you see the damage numbers because of it. 75-8 on the Bomb King himself. But of course, Slopodopolis leading the way. Ain't nobody surprised.
Yeah, big Vivian damage there. When you're allowed to have that type of control, right? When you have Welsh Mania and Bomb King, frankly, as well, just commanding so much space, no one's getting up in your face. And when no one's getting up in your face, we've seen that story. We watched that movie in the first set come through, and it did not end pretty for her opponents.
I mean, that was really the issue here, and I think the big change was, again, I'm going to go back to the Bomb King. Memes aside, it was the area control.
He's a beast, yeah.
Yeah, when people think about area control, I think you usually think about the objective, but the pathways, the choke points, the destination. The destination is not always what you're looking at. You got to think about how to get there.
Right.
And Bomb King was locking down those choke points, the inner room, and then that cutway on the right-hand side, just lining up the bombs. You're not allowed to go here.
Yeah, love a good Bomb King performance, and I'm the most vocal about I think that's his best map for a lot of the reasons you were just saying. There's so much line of sight breaks, and the only time you're ever out of range is like down long corridors where it doesn't necessarily matter that they're so far because the corridor is only large enough for your bomb explosion anyway, so it's tough to not be in a good spot with Bomb King on that map.
Now, Bomb King did have kind of a bad spot when he rolls into the Ashe. That was kind of funny.
That was
that
nice,
yeah. Real nice, clean play there across the way. Radiant hoping to channel that into game number 2, and it's on Frog. This is my favorite map because of the Frog.
The statue? What's up? Sounds like he could be saying something along those lines. Dave's favorite map as well. And
Really?
once we throw it over to him, then we'll ask him why. We'll pose the question here, but
I'm down.
we got to get in those P's and B's. F-Dot likes the statue.
I do.
I like just the vibe of it, the fact that it's open.
Yeah.
We get a really cool, nice bongo jungle vibe when we go into game on this one. Hopefully the Music Man is ready to rock and roll, and R is going to be the first one gone on this map.
Khan across the way, tiny head, big impact. Got to deal with that. And the Ash Band.
I never
as
really
well.
noticed that, but you're absolutely right.
Yep.
Objectively speaking.
Torvald. Now, Torvald is actually one of my go-to supports. I think he's not the strongest when it comes down to standing on the point, but the way he assists everybody else is a really big deal. Now, just before, Pretty Hair gave us one of the nice little factoid. One of the most banned support characters of all time is Grover. Not this time.
Yeah. And it's just that, and it's not a very high bar because supports just don't get banned. They just have never really gotten banned.
Sure.
There was a little bit of Ying at the end of last year, but before that, it was a very niche pocket strategy. Usually one team would ban 2 supports and then quickly pick the sort of best of the rest, if you will.
Sure.
So Cyclone's going to go ahead and grab themselves that Grover. And another big conversation just to have specifically like Frog Isle is about the snipers. Very, very frequently banned out last season. Strix and Kinessa were. So you had to have that conversation about who's going to get what if one of these is banned. If both these are banned or none of these are banned. In this case, none are banned. Kinessa's been picked, and Cyclone have yet to pick up Strix. But they're in no rush. If they really want it, they can grab it in this last phase.
Nando, a pick that we don't normally see much anymore, but again, when you're banning out all of these tank characters, you gotta pick something. Nando, a little bit slower than I think people are used to after some of his changes, but certainly still, he's got a big shield, so he does the job of standing on the point. Him and Barrack are gonna be good friends. Cyclone finish their draft off. Grover, Victor, Makoa, Ruckus, and they do pick up the Strix. Across the way, Kinessa will answer the long-range damage, paired up with Barrack, Nando, Saris, and Vivian.
Radiant have made their choice. We'll see if it's the right one or the wrong one here. Picking Barrack Kinessa when Makoa is still open is a big question mark for me. But like I said, they've made their choice. They have a way to victory, and they want to do it with this Kinessa. I don't know why it was so important to them that they got Kinessa and Barrack that early, but we'll see if it ends up paying off for them.
Both of these compositions seem relatively similar. You've got 2 long ranges. You've got Victor and Vivian across the way just to provide consistent damage. We'll see if Cyclone can bring the consistent wins. It's Gormizer. It's Dawson. It's game 2.
Thank you very much, F-Dot, and as they so smartly put it, this is my favorite map, and I like to think that it's because of the deep analytical reasons that Nick put forward. It's an open map, lots of fun, flowy fights, some sniper action, but the low-key reason is the same as Tom's in that there's just a neat little frog showing off on the side on the picture. So maybe a little bit of both, but definitely a fun map for me to watch. And Radiant Esports looking to get back on their feet after a Game 1 loss.
It's a little known fact, but Frog Isle is actually the only place in the realm in the real world to cross over.
Where's the real world?
And no one's truly sure, but if you actually stand on the top of the fountain, you do get transported to the realm. That's at least how 3 champions were made.
Interesting. Always fun facts here with Gore. Really teaching us the way of the Paladins lore. And Kings picking up right where he left off with a nice double kill to get his team on the 42% and climbing lead here on the point, and just going to zone out Radiant. And this is a big map. This is not a big map, rather. This is a map where it's hard to come back if you're getting zoned out the way they are.
Yeah.
You have that Fernando, who's going to be your main threat. Kinessa finding a kill for herself.
And that's the one that I think is most important. Slapidopoulos, I was actually going to know, as a sniper, like one of the plays in my head that play when I hear the name Slapidopoulos are on Kinessa. So having him on a sniper, comfortable on a map that I know most of those plays were made, is very good. But Radiant being able to find that pick early on, that creates a gap of where Cyclone can start fighting. They're a little bit too widespread because they have that sniper fire. And the minute that pressure is gone, it becomes a lot easier to come and retake.
And now Cyclone are the ones being zoned back into their base. Slapidopoulos lighting it up on that sniper. As you just said, calling him out, he answers with a kill onto Scarcity. So an early pick now for the side of Cyclone. 72%, 75% in climbing now for Radiant, so they need to go soon to get a touch to start this overtime period. It looks like both teams are going to slow things off, at least for the moment. Get ready for this next fight. Barrack going to be the first one onto the point. He is going low, but Fernando falls on the backside. Slapidopoulos finally cleaning up 2 huge kills from Slapidopoulos on that Strix. You set him up for success. He answers the call and answers in a big way with a nice double kill there to get a 1-0 lead.
And getting aggressive, too. Like, that's not, oh, I was sitting in window and finding these shots. That was, I know Kinessa's going to be looking for me. I know Vivian's going to be looking for me. I'm just going to get in their face and see what I can do with this Talon Rifle. Still executes it at the level that you would need it. Does have a flashbang available again. Probably one of the less notable of ultimates, right. Honestly. It is a pain when you get hit with it, and I'm sure Kinessa is probably going to be feeling more than likely the brunt of that, but this is the way you want to play it if you're on Frog Isle, right? Normally a sniper, especially on an offense, could kind of not do anything, right? They're going to be sitting back too far. They're not going to be aggressive. He's getting in their face. He's still trying to fight the good fight.
He's doing a great job of it, and this is probably a bit of over-analysis, but I definitely see some lines between the way Strix is played and like the old school quick-scopy style of like some of these console players, and it's not necessarily a one-for-one trade-off, but I just thought it was such an interesting mechanic, just looking at the way that he's playing it and potentially based in some of those console roots. But Welshmania doing his best to get this payload push going again. Barrett getting himself out at the moment. Kings does clean up the Vivian on the opposite side, so that's a big loss, at least to start things off for Radiant Esports. Welshmania continuing to be a thorn in the side of Radiant Esports and not going to fall down just at the moment. The Immortal does come out from the Fernando, so he's going to stall things out for the moment. The Kinessa looking for some picks on the backside. Slopodopoulos cleans up the Kinessa instead, though. That's a nice 2 kills to start off this push for CycloneGG. 50 seconds left, and it is going to go in. If they stagger these kills, this could be it.
And, I mean, seriously, this guy is playing, like, essentially a different game with the way he is playing Strix. He's getting right in their face. He's playing it a lot more aggressive, like you might see in some other shooters, instead of the passive play that I'm actually used to seeing out of Strix players, even on this map, when you can get aggressive with it. And I like seeing that change of pace, partially because you do get like the tech, that how much into the scope do I need to go to hit a quick scope? Like, where's my accuracy threshold? Like, when do I finally get that just straight middle of my screen? And he's hitting it perfectly every single time. So 5-1-3 there, 5-1-3 for Welshmania as well. And it's just the combination. They have so much damage, they have so much control that it works so well for them. Once you get the ball rolling, gravity picks up for them.
Right, and it's just so satisfying to watch. There's something about just great sniper play that is just so nice to watch. I mean, the accuracy, the quickness of it all, and Slopodopoulos certainly playing at the top of his game at the moment on this sniper. So CycloneGG off to a hot start. They're rolling, but as you'd expect, the Vivian, the Victor, leading off the damage chart there on the left-hand side. So Vivian doing her best. Valerian trying to push Radiant Esports on their way through to their first point here. And do you see anything that needs to change on the side of Radiant in order to get on the board here? Is there any glaring issues that you noticed?
Honestly, when it comes down to it, it's that trade and it's where Radiant are standing, right? They're right in the scope of this Strix. You have a headshot that hits the Kinessa before she can hit you, and then you immediately turn and you pick off a ton of damage onto a Vivian and a Fernando. Like, you just set your team up for victory.
Right, and on the back end of that, you see a double kill coming out. You see the emotes. Oh, no. A little bit of BM action coming in there from Kings, but why not? You deserve it. You're off to a hot start here. So Radiant able to get themselves some percentage there on the point, but Cyclone answering back with 5 streaks of their own, getting the point climbing up 63% and climbing. You see the Fernando and Vivian off on the side there, holding down that right-hand side choke point, but they got to get a touch very soon here. They're only about 3 or 4 ticks away from this one going down. The Barrack is going to drop right off the bat as well, and it looks like they're about to just give it up, and they do.
I mean, you know you're having not necessarily the fight that you want when you look at the top left of your screen and you see 10 streak, 10 streak, 10 streak. Then the next highest is going to be 8-7. Like, everybody is burning on the side of Cyclone. They're hitting their shots. They are putting and applying the damage comfortably. And there's going to be this, just again, the strengths that come down in the sniper matchup. The stealth versus the, I want to say, charge shot damage that Kinessa can pull out. That stealth gets you out of dodge a lot faster.
It does, and we've talked about Slopodopoulos this entire game on this sniper, and he is doing a wonderful job at Kings as we see him continue to roll. He was a big name in that last game on that Bomb King, finding himself the doubles, the triples, the big important kills, and again, he's finding himself multiple kills in this game as well, so not to be ignored. Slopodopoulos dropping the third of this team fight. Kings trying to continue the momentum going forward. Barrack is going to be the last one to fall potentially in this fight, and now they just need to delay and stall. You see the hook come in, Makoa going down very low, but Valerian, the next to fall on the side of Radiant. So now it's just up to Cyclone. They need to zone out. They have probably one more team fight to win here. If they're able to, they're going to get a clean 4-0 sweep.
They're going to be able to start off with a lot of good damage. Kings is on the side. This is where you win this fight, right? They're spread out, they're applying damage, and they're distraction. Fernando didn't go to the objective first. He went after the Victor. Now he's jumping down. Now that Immortal's going to pay off, but they're still starting to drop like flies.
And they are, and that payload is so close to getting pushed in. The Immortal has run out now, so they just need some damage to get put onto him. In the meantime, all of his teammates are falling left and right. He is able to get out. He is the last line of defense here before this payload get pushed through, but there's no way he survives this, and he doesn't. CycloneGG finding their way to a clean 4-0 sweep, and I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, that's on the back of Slapidopoulos on the Strix. You had Kings coming alive again, some great tank play, some great healing play. I mean, literally everyone was playing the proper way.
Yeah.
Just a great job there.
And there was a lot, and it kind of comes down to that last kill, right?
Right.
That's exactly what the match was like. You're locked in the corner, there's a Grover above you hitting behind your shield, and there's an Ancient Rage Makoa in front of you who doesn't really care that you have a shield up. He's going to go through it one way or another.
Well, lots of fun, flashy plays there in game number 2, but to tell us a little bit more about it, we'll send it back to the desk. Here's F. and Pretty Hair.
Cyclone certainly bringing the storm there in game number 2. Another 4-zip going in their direction. Nick, when I look at this, I am no longer thinking about Cyclone. I've accepted that they are just this damn strong. What does Radiant got to do?
I think it change up the draft a little bit. That was, we talked about how, especially with the early Barrett Canessa, with both snipers open, I don't feel like it's super necessary to get one of them that early, as well as Barrick. I don't like the character. I will never prescribe it over almost any of the frontliners.
Listen,
in the game.
man, anytime I get to drop a turret, I think that's top-tier gameplay.
It's not, and it wasn't here either. I mean, Makoa was open. Makoa was better in just about every single way. And on top of the fact that it was a weird draft and nearly objectively worse, they also played it weirdly. They played it strange. There was a strange opening play with Barrick, and then a lot of the in-between there was not great either.
Well, what was great was across the way. CycloneGG, just saying GG for minute 1. 75,000 damage out of the Victor player there on King. Slapidopoulos also bringing the pain with the long-range Strix. And really watching him find those spots and pick those shots was really impressive. I do want to highlight what you were saying about Radiant, though, real quick. Luke is too good is, well, he's a little lukewarm here. But he's a rookie, and he's an unknown quantity. So him doing an odd unknown play, isn't there merit to that?
It could be, right? And I like what you were saying because we were kind of discussing it. The fact that it's not standard whatsoever and it's completely unexpected, and what we're talking about is that very opening play where, you know, most of the contest where people butt heads is for over the control of the staircase on Frog Isle, and the fact that Luke just goes for this wide wraparound main as Barrick to dive a backline and using rocket boots to get there, it's like you're very much out on an island. And that's what we saw. Like, everyone just ignored him, killed everyone in the 4v5, and then Luke is on an island by himself.
So it was an interesting approach, and I think what comes down to is that, you know, it's sometimes you throw cheese to the wind and you see if it sticks. This time around, well, it didn't, because Cyclone was just ready and waiting.
Yeah.
I want to see more of that mentality, though, from Radiant. The idea that, like, all right, Cyclone is a behemoth. We've got to play differently to get the win.
Right.
And right now, game number 3 for Radiant has to go differently if they want to continue their dream of match number 2. Picks and bans after our map as we take a look at it. We've seen Jaguar Falls. We've seen Frog Isle. And now we're going to see Ice Mines.
So a big part of what you were kind of just talking about, if you're Radiant, is throwing Cyclone. You got to maybe do something a little unorthodox as the underdog. You can't just play the textbook game because they've already proven to be better than you at that. So throwing a little bit of a weird opener, maybe that's one way to do it. Slowing the game down is traditionally why you would go to Ice Mines. It's a little bit of a proverbial white flag to me personally. It's almost saying we are struggling here. We need to slow this set down, so we need to go to a map that is going to play to that type of game style.
Just get a stop right now is really what they're looking for. And honestly, if I'm Radiant and if this set doesn't go my way, I don't want to get 4-1, 4-0, 4-0. I want to put up a fight here in this last match so that I have something to go home and look at the tape. I think that's one of the bigger things to think about when you talk about, you know, these online leagues, is that this isn't a LAN where one and done. This is all marathon. So we want to see these teams kind of improve, and getting longer games is absolutely going to do it. Khan, makes his way through as we see that pick. I need to just ask
You
a question.
trespass and are
Rockman.
unwanted stranger.
Rockman. If Radiant, obviously in game 1 they pick it up, it does okay for them. They don't win.
Yeah.
I think they're just trying to prevent them from going for another Death Ball-y style of composition here. They could be looking to draft a lot of CC, right? Grok has this talent called Totemic Ward that gives everyone CC immunity when they're inside of the totem for 2 seconds after. So if they are drafting a lot of CC, or if they're planning on drafting a lot of CC, Cyclone could be just wary of that.
Well, the Ying is going to come up next to the Makoa and the Inara.
Broadside!
Now we see the damage. Dredge is going to show up, and we'll see what he's able to do in threes. Khan, Ash, and Saris across the way.
King a big
Paired up with Bomb
hug.
King. How's this Radiant draft looking for you? Is
Very
this the
good.
change you wanted?
Yeah, very good stuff here. Solid all around.
Let's
It's
get
still
this done.
a little bit of a struggle, right? Cyclone do get the Inara Makoa as their 1-2 punch, and it's the best point front line and the best aggro front line. So it's going to be tough there. But Khan and Ash are not bad. Victor Bomb King is a great backline. Saris has been very successful. It's a rock solid draft here. They have not lost the game at this point, which is really all we wanted after Frog Isle.
Exactly. Radiant now has a nice little draft here. I really like what Radiant's bringing to the table. The Cyclone across the way, get a round off with a Vivian. I don't think anybody's ever going to complain about their 2 damage dealers being Dredge and Vivian.
Yeah, Dredge is definitely a pretty fresh here in the console scene. Doesn't really get played on PC. I thought earlier it looked good for Flashpoint.
It looked really good.
It's not a given for me yet. It's effective when you are effective, sure, but no one has proven to be a super solid, I am playing Dredge, I'm getting respect band Dredge against me, so I'm very curious to watch this one. I want to get more data on this character.
Ice Mines is certainly going to be a place that we can do it. Kraken, small areas, large areas for Victor, and of course, points for Anar to stand on. We've got Dawson, we've got Gore. Give us game number 3.
Thank you, F-Dot, and Dredge looking to prove himself to Nick here in game number 3, needing to prove that he's a worthwhile champion. You know, and that's what we all hope for, is to prove ourselves to be worthwhile to Pretty Hair there on the desk. But
I mean, that's my goal in life.
that is everyone's.
That actually is my goal in life.
You know, and that should be everyone's goal in life. Certainly my goal in life as well. But Cyclone off to a 2-0 start. And they made this note on the desk, potentially a bit of a white flag, a bit of a slow down, please, this game is going too fast. Do you like the Ice Mines pick? If they don't slow down at all, they find themselves a first blood.
Ice Mines is the map that a team will choose as the 3rd map, because not only is it going by too fast, but they're just like, man, we're losing. The other team is very much obviously better than us. We can go to Ice Mines and try to win. Again, I've mentioned this to you in the past, but you're not fighting for point 1. You're not fighting for point 2. You're not fighting for point 3. You're waiting until it's 3-3 on the scoreboard, and you're fighting for that very last fight. The thing I like that Cyclone did here, they get the Makoa, they get the Inara. Someone to stand on the point, someone to be aggressive. And Dredge, this is actually one of his best maps because he's just safe. He just sits in the back and fires for free.
And King's certainly a person that you want on this Dredge, and we saw so much success from him in game number 1 and continuing to find his success here. An early Kraken coming in. He's going to body block the Ash back into his own ultimate. Beautiful there from King's. Valerian and Scarcity in the meantime are able to slow things down, find a couple kills for themselves, but King's is always going to be a threat here on this damage. But things are finally going to slow down here. CycloneGG off to a 69% lead here on the point, but Radiant Esports have claimed it back for themselves.
And this is the reason it's so difficult to fight on Ice Mines. Once you lose your grip on the point, it's just so hard to get back in. You're going to have to use your Inara. You're going to have to get a couple kills, which they've done so far. Now you have to get aggressive. You have to get back in there, and you have to be able to hold on to it, because now Radiant's at 93.
They are at 93, but Cyclone on the front foot, at least for the moment. Bomb King soon to follow. Slapodopoulos hitting just as hard on the hit scan Vivian as he was on the Strix in the last game. CycloneGG well on their way to a .1 capture here on Ice Mines. So Radiant Esports showed a little bit of life there. They showed some fight. They were able to get really high up there on the point, but kind of just fell apart for them on the back end of that fight.
And it's that awkward timing, right? They didn't quite have their ults available. They charged them up during the fight, but it's at that point where they're so low that they're going to die, right? So there was no happy trade-off, no happy median for them to be able to say, cool, we're going to be able to push them back, then use our ults, maintain this fight, and win. Whereas Cyclone are like, cool, we're just going to go ahead, pop sentinels, get aggressive, get right into your face, do whatever we can. Like, Slapodopoulos showed up and was ready. to just decimate anybody who happened to be in his line of sight.
Decimate, he did. He did find himself a double kill in that last fight. Finds himself, I think that was 3. They since respawned, but since going on this payload push, he's found himself 3 kills onto the side of Radiant as well. So minute and a half left, almost getting pushed in here. One slip up from Radiant means a point here for Cyclone, and they're hot. You see 3 streaks coming out for them, but you got to watch out for this Bomb King, especially when he finds himself this high ground. The Inara going low. She does end up falling with Slopodopolis, cleans up Luke is too good. So the Ashe goes down, but King's lighting things up again. Scarcity, the Bomb King falling as well. So a bit of a tit for tat. Both teams trading things back and forth right here, and that payload is so close to going in. One slip up could mean point number 2 here for Cyclone. Here comes the Kraken.
And that's what you need.
That does
you
it.
need one slip up, and it's just like, okay, so here's your options. You can take 4,000 damage, or get off of my payload. Your choice. You can choose either. Obviously, one of these is going to... Actually, not. It's literally a win-win scenario for the Dredge.
Right. And well played on the Kraken there, and you know, you said this is a great map for Dredge, and he's showing us exactly why right there. The Vivian and the Dredge leading things off on the damage chart, but you got to look at the streaks as well. 11 streak. They cannot get onto that Ying, and that could be a big difference maker here. She is just pouring out the healing, and you know, when you don't focus the healer, when you're unable to get to the healer, that's not going to be a good thing as far as your team finding wins in team fights.
Yeah, Harvey being 0011 right now is making things very easy for Cyclone, but I'm actually kind of surprised. I mean, Slopodopolis being 9-1-3, that's not a typical Ice Mine slash line. That's not really a typical slash line you get to see that often.
Right.
So being able to have that level of play on this map, it's working wonders for his team.
So you go to Ice Mines to slow things down. You're unable to find the initial slow, at least off the bat. One of the Sentinels is falling here, but Radiant is able to find the first kill on this half of the map and able to find the first bit of point presence as well. So they're up 15% and climbing, and now they just need to zone them out. But Kings finds the Bomb King. So that's a big loss for the side of Radiant Esports. Kings continuing to pour out the damage. Inara is going to be the next target for Radiant, but she's so damn tanky. She's not going to fall, at least initially, but a good Ashe shield zones him out a little bit, and both teams just kind of butting heads right now. Neither one really fully committing. Great convergence coming out there, pulling some team members in. Here comes the Ancient Rage, going to force them back, but he is going to fall on the back end of that. So Radiant Esports finds themselves some victory in that fight. A little bit long, more drawn out. 89% in climbing for them.
Comeback mechanic definitely working out well here for Radiant as long as they can keep up this pressure. Slopodopolis is getting low. He has been eliminated at least once this fight. King's getting him off the board. Makes this a lot easier for Radiant to keep control. But they have to get rid of Smutney. They have to make sure this Makoa can't touch. Slopodopolis does not have the health bar to touch.
He does not. I mean, that fight just seemed longer and more drawn out than the fights that we had seen previously, and it ended up coming out in favor of Radiant Esports. I mean, is that there? Do you see that in their composition, that they maybe favor the longer, more drawn out fights, or is that just maybe they were able to zone better, stay alive a little bit longer? Did you see anything there?
I mean, they actually did the same thing they did in round 1 with one small difference. Is they lost that initial fight, right? Things aren't going quite their way, but this time they didn't lose it as hard. They just fall back instead of dying off. Then they get aggressive, they retake the point, and then you have comeback mechanic helping them, helping facilitate the fact that now, okay, just zone. You don't have to win another fight, just find the zone you need. There was a point where, I mean, we're looking at Harvey getting out of that fight. He was still on 11 streak, went to a 12 streak, but then they finally chase him down. They get rid of Slopodopolis, they get rid of Kings. Like, the pressure that was being applied, they found a way to deal with it, isolate it, and then just get rid of it.
Definitely, and that obviously goes in their favor, but now they have to deal with the offensive push, and CycloneGG, obviously a map that maybe favors the defense a little bit, but you see 2 kills getting traded out for 1. Yeah, just a little bit. You see 2 kills getting traded out for 1, so Radiant off to a great start here on this point push. They do have a long way to go, and that's what you need to focus on here. They have a minute left and only are about halfway there, and on a map that's so hard to push, maybe it doesn't bode well for them, but they still definitely have a fighting chance here, but not when Slopodopolis is pouring out the damage that he is, and just continuing to be a thorn in the side. The Sentinels are going to come out. They're going to boost that damage up a little bit, and the fight is starting to break out up there on the ridge, and the Inara is just going to wall them off, but Valerian finding Slappadopoulos. Beautiful kill there. Here comes the Khan. He has the immunity just for a couple seconds, so he is going to get in the face of this Inara, trading back damage just a little bit back and forth. The Dredge is going to pour out damage onto him, though, but Valerian finally cleans up the Dredge. So Radiant Esports finding a bit of breathing room here in this fight. They have 2 down. They have to walk back to the fight. 3 down now for the side of Cyclone. Radiant Esports fighting that very well.
And now they're in this perfect position. They have the high ground, they have control over the objective, but they have to be able to hold not only where Valerian is standing, but also where you see the Khan kind of hanging on the right-hand side. You need both of these to work out well, and you need to make sure that that Dredge isn't going to cause you too much trouble. The payload can get stuck under this archway right below Valerian, so you have to be very careful approaching this portion of the map.
So double kill starting things off for Kings. 3 seconds left. Overtime might tick away if they're able to get a touch on it. Triple kill for Kings.
That'll do it.
That'll do it, and that'll mark a defensive stand there for Cyclone, and that's a really good example of why this map is so hard to push on. There's just so many different places, so many different areas for different champions to hide, and went in the way of Cyclone that time.
Unfortunately, that round did not go as clean, I think, as Cyclone would have wanted, though. They
Right.
are able to get that extra point, so now they're going potentially set point if they can get this next one, but you see Slappadopoulos went from 9-1 to 10-5. Like, he had 4 deaths and 1 kill for that round, so not anywhere near as clean. And so you're looking at, for me, the story of the whole team. Where can you apply this damage? Where can you find it? Kings has skyrocketed to the top. He has his Wrecker. He has his Deft Hands. He has everything he needs in his wheelhouse to make this work. It's just, how do you use these ults? You have a Seismic Crash, an Ancient Rage, and a Kraken, and they can't miss. They can't mess up. They can't slip. They have to be on point.
And Radiant Esports found their footing on that last team fight, at least for a moment, so they're going to want more of the same coming out here. CycloneGG is going to get the first touch here, so 9% starting off on the point for them. The Kraken comes out, nice placement there on the Kraken, is going to force them out of that over alleyway just a little bit. Kings, here comes the King Bomb. Is it going to find a target? He does. He finds the Inara, but she answers back with a Seismic Crash. Here comes the Ash Banner, putting it down. I'm going to be immune just for a minute. Kills getting traded back and forth here. Makoa trying to roll out, trying to find a kill for himself, but he is soon to fall at the hands of this Ashe. But in the meantime, CycloneGG, 75% in climbing. They could claim it here on the back end of a really long fight.
I mean, doing exactly what they need, a good hook. Ashe has been trying so hard to kill this Makoa, and it's just not going their way. This is the result of essentially a 2v1, 2 front lines onto the 1. Bomb King's back, but he doesn't have the King Bomb. He doesn't have the damage, and right now he doesn't know where to look.
And overtime ticking away, so somebody needs to get a point. The Bomb King is not the guy that you want to get a touch. He's not going to get a touch. CycloneGG not going to give up a game, only give up 1 point here on Ice Mines to a clean 3-0 sweep.
And honestly, that's kind of what I expect. Like, if you win Ice Mines, for in my eyes, let's say you're the team that's down 2-0, like if you are Radiant in that set, you're prolonging the inevitable, in my eyes. That's kind of what Ice Mines feels like, unless you have a really good strategy on there, which we've seen in the past where teams have pulled out like a Koga Torvald bubble that just eradicated everything. They changed the entire set. But for the most part, it's just you go there to try and slow things down. And Cyclone didn't want to slow down. They didn't hit the brakes. They just pumped the gas harder.
And you saw all the big names continuing to roll just as hard. I mean, King's going on, I think that was his 3rd different champion in this set, and providing just as much great gameplay as he was before. But that is going to do it for set number 2 of our day. CycloneGG finding a clean 3-0 sweep. To further break it down, let's send it back to the desk. Here's F. Dot and Pretty Hair.
Thanks a lot, Big D. That one went all the way to Cyclone. Easy peasy. 4-4-4. Only giving up 1 point. And that was all the way in game number 1, which I maintain the human element. You got to warm up first.
Yeah, definitely. A fairly simple breakdown here. I think you have some games that have bad drafts. That's Frog Isle, right? And then they did everything right here, but still lost on Ice Mines. Their draft was solid. This is the right map to slow the game down. And if you're still losing 4-1, I believe it was, you just lost. Like, you're just going to get beat. You're not going to win this set. If you get this solid draft, I think there may have been slight room for improvement in not letting Cyclone get Inara Makoa together in the same phase as not first pick. That's the only real place I could see improved upon in terms of the draft for this game. But other than that, I do feel Cyclone comes out, solid drafts every game, and are just the better team.
That's really you nailed it there with the picks for me with Radiant. I think that if you're a team that Radiant, let's be real, Cyclone is the top card in this matchup. Radiant has to learn and sort of earn their stripes, if you will. Knowing that, be realistic when you come into matches like this. And Nara Makoa that's how you win a game as the lower seed. Don't let your harder opposition take that opportunity. Otherwise, you're going to stutter step your way through the match and just wind up on the bad side of things.
Yeah, stuff and body blocking into the crack in there. That was awesome to see from Dredge. One thing that has definitely he's checked the box there, but the trend that I am noticing is when you don't have that pressure, right? There was a Makoa there, like personal shell shield for that Dredge. A lot of that happening for Flashpoint as well. When Dredge isn't in his spot or having a ton of pressure and momentum and getting to do whatever he wants, then he doesn't have as much success. But I guess it's like when it rains, it pours, so to speak, right? When he can get there, it's a very difficult thing to stop. Once you give a little bit of momentum to him, he's going to make that a much, much bigger problem than any other champion would.
Consistent barrage of damage is what you're talking about when you see Dredge. Tell me if it reminds me, it's kind of like a Bomb King, but a more extreme version. Bomb King will kind of always be able to deny an area. Dredge, if he gets there, it becomes impossible to really get through.
I agree.
But if he's not able to get there, Bomb King's going to be able to kind of sit lukewarm, whereas Dredge fills the same role, but more extreme. Either feast or famine.
Absolutely.
So a nice real look there at the old pirate as he tries to get it on down. Cyclone winds up with another victory as Radiant winds up with a fat lip. 2 losses in a row as Radiant finds themselves in spot number 3.
Yeah, game differential here. Something to pay attention as Cyclone starts to pull ahead here with their plus-minus. Plus-minus is going to matter in those instances of ties. Right now, it's looking like if a tie is going to happen, it's going to be between Cyclone and Bust down here. And like we mentioned, we're only broadcasting one of these games from each region, though 2 are being played. So Bust down and Viral did play. Viral took the L there. Bust down, move ahead, and they will stay 2-0. But it looks like at only the +4 mark, they didn't get out of that set as cleanly as Cyclone did here.
Yeah, Cyclone, like I said, just absolutely clean, man. Kind of the opposite of their namesake. Everything where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Great drafts, great execution, great X's and O's, great plays. I mean, if you had to find a pimple on this team, where would it be?
Nothing today. Radiant wasn't really exposing much for me in that way because not a lot of pressure being put on them in the drafts. I'd like to see what they look like when they're uncomfortable, right? But we didn't get to see much of that.
Well, the first half of the day is done. We bid you adieu, EU. We'll return with the North American action in just a bit.